Hey everybody, welcome to Takeoff with John Clark. And of course, the Birds are giving the city of Philadelphia great hope to get their second Super Bowl. And let's bring in a man who won the first Super Bowl here in Philadelphia, Malcolm Jenkins. And Malcolm, you're doing a great thing. You're going to be providing a lot of Philly families with some food over the holidays, a meal and some baskets. We're going to talk about that. But first, what are you thinking about this Eagles run? Does it kind of remind you of your run and, of course, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, anytime the Eagles get, they get a certain amount of wins and it gets late in the year and we can see the path, we start getting excited. And I think this team has everything that, we're looking for from an ingredient standpoint to get there. There's still a lot of football to be played. And I think we learned that, the hard way as a fan base last year. But I do see that there's something different about this team. They're definitely seem more poised. They seem like they have a better grasp of their identity. And they're playing some really good football. So I think it's definitely an exciting time as a fan.
And you, of course, are a Super Bowl champion in 2 different cities, and you have a great book. It is available out there, What Winners Won't Tell You, Lessons from a Legendary Defender. And I kind of thought of you when we heard all the drama going around this week with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Maybe some of it's misconstrued, but obviously A.J. Brown was frustrated. And you do a great job in your book of detailing some obstacles and things that you guys had to go through with your Super Bowl team. And of course, Carson Wentz goes down, and there's probably other things that you guys deal with as leaders. Is there anything that you can take from how you guys overcame obstacles to what this team is going to need to do to kind of overcome noise, some drama, and things like that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I tried to outline in the book is just how many other things off the field there it takes that contributes to winning a Super Bowl. It's not just what happens on the field during game day. It's how you deal with the media. It's your body language during games, right? Because all of this has now created a media storm around you that's taken time, effort, and focus away from the Pittsburgh Steelers and your opponent and getting better. Those are things that require you to be mindful of those things. Those are the things that good teams do late in the year. They don't get distracted with, things that are being said in the media because all of that is unavoidable. And I think, that's something there's still room to learn those lessons. I think it's very scary for us being, again, referencing last year and seeing, we didn't know what was going on, but we can clearly see that there was something going on in the locker room. This flashes at that again. Hopefully it's something that we don't really go back to. We can laugh at later. But I do think this team needs to be mindful of their body language, not only just on camera in the media when you're answering questions after, maybe a frustrating game, but also on the sidelines, how you're talking to one another, because all of that actually matters when you're talking about now having to deal with questions and being able to focus week to week.
And your book is really good detailing a lot of the things. And you as a leader of that Eagles Super Bowl champion, obviously all successful athletes have ego. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody wants to be a part of it. Everybody wants to contribute. And A.J. Brown obviously wants to contribute. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He wants the ball. But it's interesting because I was thinking about how fragile is the vibe of a team and just how fragile is it so it doesn't become fractured?
Yeah, I think it's something you have to pour into every single day. It's a relationship, right? What you put in August doesn't mean anything in December. It's something that requires a daily deposit. And, it's something that I don't think is out of control. It's not gotten away from them, but it is something that you have to be very, very mindful of. And I think for me, the best teams are filled with guys who want to win more than they want to be the reason they win. And I think I've been around both types, and it's all good when we're winning, especially when the right people are getting the credit. But it's a very awkward thing to have a really good team and to be winning and to be fighting about how you're winning. And I think, not to say that this is that situation, but I do think that those two dynamics exist. And I think as a leader, it's very important that you nip these type of things in the bud to make sure that, hey, everybody here has the team first mentality. As long as we are getting better, we're putting wins in the win column, and we can continue to develop as a team, then everything's great. But if we're starting to point fingers and figure out who's who and count stats and we were upset even when we were accomplishing a goal. And I think sometimes it gets a little confusing as to where that team is going.
Could you tell on your two Super Bowl championship teams, could you tell the culture, the chemistry, and the vibe? Like, was there a big difference with those teams and other teams you were on?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's, the first thing is, do you have the talent? And I was on two Super Bowl teams that had great quarterbacks, talent all over the place, that had a lot of personality too. So we had the gritty guys. We could say stuff in the media. We were a chippy team. You got to be lucky. You win a couple games you probably shouldn't have. I think we've even seen that with this Eagle team, that they've, gotten bailed out a couple times. And that's what you need sometimes. Are you healthy is the other thing. Can you stay healthy throughout the season? If you can check those boxes, then you really give yourself an opportunity late in the year. If you've got your team together, you guys have weathered the storm of injuries, you've done everything you needed to do. Now it's just about playing ball and executing at a high level. And I think this team is fit to do that with anybody in the league.
And obviously, Malcolm, when you look at this talent that they have, obviously quarterback, receivers, they're all making a lot of money. You've got great offensive linemen. Saquon Barkley comes in, and Jalen Hurts was talking about how, like, he has kind of submitted himself or basically sacrificed certain things in the passing game because Saquon is here and he's special. And even AJ has said that. To win a championship, does it really take sacrifice from everybody on both sides of the ball?
100%. Yeah, there's no free rides in this. We got to get it. And that's why it's a team sport. And you got to want to win more than you want to be the reason you win. So if it's on Saquon Barkley's back and that's the most effective game plan, and that's what we do. There's going to be situations where now we need to convert, and we'll need to be able to get to AJ. We'll need to be able to convert on passes. Those things you need to be able to have in your arsenal. But you need to know the identity of the team. And I think that's been really the greatest thing about Saquon is addition. Not only has his on-field productivity been off the charts, but I think he's also been that like calming voice and calming personality in that locker room, who's very team first, who's not about him or his stats, that's really been an example for everybody to kind of gravitate around. So they're not running into all of the things that we saw last year. I think he's been that glue that's held this team together.
And I remember asking you after a couple games when you faced some tough running backs, I was like, is Ezekiel Elliott the toughest guy to tackle in the NFL? And I remember your answer. You said Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and that was after one game playing him. I tell people all the time I had Marshawn Lynch in there. I had Ezekiel Elliott was probably number 2. And then I played one game against Saquon, and he jumped to number 2 on that list. I played another one, and he was the number 1 guy.
So what makes Saquon Barkley so tough to tackle? We see once he gets into space how tough it is to bring him down. He's a home run hitter.
Yeah, it's that you usually have a type. He's either the big bruiser, so you got to get him down like a Derrick Henry who can run you over, but he's also got breakaway speed. So you got to, you're dealing with that. You've got some guys that are really shifty, can jump, or are really strong. That was kind of your Ezekiel Elliott. He'll run you over or jump over you. With Saquon, he'll juke you, jump over you backwards, outrun you, truck you. You really don't know what's coming. So if you're trying to have a plan, he's got every move, and he doesn't seem to get tired. He gets more and more energy as the game goes on. So you might tackle him well in the first half, in the third quarter, but you got to really be able to win against all of his arsenal consistently, and he's proven that is a difficult task.
I tell you, when I look back at kind of Eagles history, I liken Saquon Barkley coming to the Eagles like T.O. coming and just how they dominated. And Mike Tomlin this week said Saquon's the biggest acquisition in the NFL this year. Have you seen he has just had a profound effect on this team, even with an already good offensive line?
Yeah, I think it was the identity that they were missing in the past. This team has like been grasping like we're a run first offense, but they never had the guy to really like pin that on. And I think Saquon really provided not only, that skill set, but also that personality. I I think we underestimate, how important it is for his demeanor to be the way it is, for him to, in big moments where he could make it all about himself, to put other teammates in front. That makes it so hard for anybody else on the team to step out of line when the bell cow, when the person who's really putting this team on his back is humble and is keeping his energy the same. That forces everybody else to lock in. And I think that really, to me, has been the bright spot to really look at on this team, and why they've been able to take similar talent that they had in previous years and really put it together this year.
And on the other side of the ball, one of the guys you know real well, CJ Gardner-Johnson, it's pretty amazing. He was 13-2 overall when they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He left. Obviously, they just disagreed on his value, whatever. He left, comes back, and now he's 11-2. So I add that up. That's 24-4 with CJ Gardner-Johnson on the defense. What do you think he brings on that side of the ball?
I mean, he definitely brings an attitude, and you know what? And I think even different. He's as he's getting a little bit more mature in his game, he's still got the spiciness and the juice, but I think he's becoming a lot. He's becoming the calming guy. Like the steady and consistent player. His ball productivity has been up there. Is consistent with making plays on the football, and I think that's spread throughout the secondary. That secondary has really been I think a bright spot. I think we expected the defensive front to get pressure and do what they do. The secondary has really been doing well, and then Zack Baun, at that linebacker level, is really. I mean, he's having a career season. From anybody to put any linebacker out there, and this season is really special. But I think it's allowing them to play solid on all three levels of the defense, which is, you usually don't see a combination of all three.
And you, of course, were with CJ Gardner-Johnson, and he comes to Philly kind of like you did, coming from New Orleans. In a sense, are you pretty proud of what you have seen, his growth, and as you said, maybe taking that next step with the leadership and the calming?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, he's somebody that when I got to New Orleans, he immediately reached out to me and wanted to learn. So he's always kind of been like the little bro. So to see him, one, come to Philly the first time and do what he did was really, really proud. Then he goes to Detroit, comes back, and is still playing at a very, very productive and high level, and doing things that, it's not like I'm calling him, teaching him things. He's making it his own thing. And he called me this year. He said he might officially hit harder than me after a couple of the blows he's laying. And I had to give it to him. I was like, yo, the way you're playing, it's you're on your way, brother, for sure.
This past Sunday, that hit, I mean, he might be right about that.
Yeah, that's what I said. Hey, I had to give it to him. Like, no, the film doesn't lie. It's all good.
Malcolm, you played all over the place on defense. You took on many, many, many positions, kind of what was needed at the time. When you see a guy like Cooper DeJean come in as a rookie, playing that slot, but he's also, in some senses, a linebacker at sometimes, right? Like he's playing multiple spots, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been impressive. I think as a rookie, that's a really difficult position to grasp because you rely so much on your understanding of the defense. And I think, you're closer to your help, but if you don't understand leverage, you don't understand run fits, run gaps, you're dealing with receivers, you're dealing with tight ends, you're dealing with running backs, you're dealing with linemen. And he's not the biggest person, but he's held his own and been very, very productive. It's not even about holding his own. He's been very productive in that space and has been a bright spot on the defense. So that is always encouraging from a rookie, because that position, while sometimes it's undervalued, maybe from the understanding of its role, but that position is key for a defense, because it allows you, depending on how versatile that player is, allows you to stay in sub packages versus 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, or 3 wide receivers. So on defense, you can stay calm as the offense cycles through its personnels. But if you can't, then you have to now develop all of these different packages that have different rules. When you have versatile players, it simplifies the entire defense.
Are you pretty amazed by Quinyon Mitchell as well? I mean, it's hard to remember 2 rookies coming in and being this good right away. And you talk about calm. It just seems like Cooper and Quinyon are poised for any moment that comes up.
Yeah, when you look at the stat sheet every week, I enjoy seeing that on Instagram, who's come to the island and got locked down. It is an impressive list. Like there's no arguing with it. And I think, you match that. You got Slayer on the other side. You've got Zack Baun doing things. You got the D-line getting pressure. That's a recipe to play against anybody in this league, in any game, at any point in time, in any venue, indoor, outdoor. That travels well on any Sunday. And I think for them, it's going to be about staying consistent, staying healthy, and really making all of this count when those times and those moments matter most.
I had your fellow Super Bowl champ Chris Long on this podcast 2 weeks ago, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of similarities between your Super Bowl defense and this defense. Do you see the similarities?
I mean, I think the similarities, if you look at the majority of Super Bowl winning teams, the profile is not that much variety, right? They're going to have a stout defense that's opportunistic. They're going to have players on every level. I think this team might be better than we were. We lost Jordan Hicks, that year. I was playing Mike linebacker alongside Nigel Bradham, and we were switching back and forth. Our versatility was our strength on that defense, where I feel like position to position, this defense is probably better when you line it up on paper. They've got better athletes in certain spots. So I think it really comes down to playing complementary football. They're going in with an offense that is not going to be the offense that we had that was lighting up the scoreboard with Nick Foles and going into shootouts with Tom Brady. They're going to be controlling ball, beating people up, and then getting those plays late if people want to make mistakes. That's going to require you to be super stingy on defense, to be very optimistic. You got to tackle well, execute well. And I think this team is poised to have that particular identity. And so I see the strengths, but I see the similarities, but I would actually say that this defense might be a little stronger, if you lined up position to position.
That says a lot. And I enjoyed talking to you on the sideline at one of the recent Eagles games because it is the New Orleans to Philly pipeline. It started with you pretty much. And Zack Baun, you made a great point about how Zack Baun kind of got to learn under some incredible linebackers in New Orleans. Do you think that maybe helped him a little bit where he could kind of, in a way, get the mental reps, but just see how those pros handle themselves every day?
Yeah, 100%. I think he, playing behind somebody like Demario Davis does two things. It teaches you how to prepare as well as any linebacker in the game. And Demario does everything he can to play fast. And I think that's one thing you see Zack doing, is playing very decisive football where before the snap, he has an idea in his mind and he's going to get it. And most of the time, he's trusting that preparation. That's the next level of maturation that you want to see in players. A lot of them get to the point where they can study the game and they know it, and they'll get into the game and still won't trust it enough to just, to beat the snap or just cut it loose and trust their eyes. There's a little bit of hesitation, and that's the difference between making all of the plays that he's making and being very close. And I think to see him really step into that role on his own in a new space, and he's the guy, in the middle of it, is definitely something as a teammate, as an older player, who was watching him kind of cut his teeth, is definitely a proud moment.
I love the fact that there's these connections with you on this Eagles defense, and you're kind of seeing them grow here. And you're back in town tomorrow, of course, for your Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. And you've been doing tremendous work through the years, and you continue to do it. And you're going to be providing families with dinners throughout the holidays, 280 Philly families helping out once again in the community. How much do you value what you're able to do for the Philadelphia community and what you're able to do for families, especially this time of year, really helping them enjoy the holidays more?
Yeah, I think it's just about being mindful. I think, I want to take care of everywhere that I call home, and Philly is home for me. And so I'm always thinking about those times a year where things get a little bit stressful, and that's usually right before school, when you're getting your kids ready to go back. There's new expenses, new clothes, new, gear you got to get. And then the holidays, right? There's gifts, there's travel, there's family, there's food, all of these things that just, you're trying to close out the year. There's a lot of stress. And so we like to meet families when they need it the most. And so our holiday dinner basket giveaway, surprise, we identified 280 families around the city, provide them with food for the holidays and make sure that they take that stressor off their plate. We've been focusing on getting food and providing these type of resources to families through this event and our Get Ready Fest in the fall for some time now. We've serviced over 13,000 families. And it's an important thing. We've seen it be very effective, especially at these times of year. So we encourage people to continue to support the work that we do. The Malcolm Jenkins Foundation, we work off of donations and off of community support. So we like to provide a opportunity for the community to help itself, to pour into itself. And we really appreciate everybody who's helped us do this work over the years. We're celebrating 15 years in March, and that's been a huge help from all of our sponsors, volunteers, and partners. So thank you. Happy holidays to everybody. If you can support the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation, you can go to themalcolmjenkinsfoundation.org, see all of our work, see our calendar, volunteer, and donate.
That's right. And I think it's tmjf.org.
Yep.
And you can go on there and help out. And I just remember when you were playing for the Eagles, you were involved with so many other things too. And you were giving your time to communities and your foundation. So great job. You always find the time to help people out, especially during the holidays. So we appreciate you in Philly. Are you looking forward to maybe the Eagles finally getting a win against Russell Wilson here? Because Russell Wilson, I think he's 6-0 against the Eagles. Could this be the time?
It could be the time. I think I participated in a few of those losses. So yeah, I need somebody to get some get back for me.
Are you surprised at all about how well Russ is doing with the Steelers this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, coming into it, I think the expectations were probably low, and especially coming off of an injury. But I mean, they stuck with him, and they proved that to be a great decision. He's been having a really strong year. Bounce back looks a lot more like the Russ that we used to know when he used to cook things up, when Russ was cooking back then. So yeah, I mean, hats off to him. It's like one of those things, you ignore what everybody's saying, you stick to the process, get healthy, and execute. And he's got his team playing well.
All right. Well, it is a big one this Sunday, Eagles, Steelers. And I want to mention your book one time because there's a lot of great lessons in there. What winners won't tell you. Lessons from a legendary defender, and you, of course, will be forever known as helping Philly get its first ever Super Bowl. So we appreciate you taking the time, appreciate your perspective and your insight, and great job again with the event you're having for the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation, bringing some holiday cheer to families here in Philly.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Malcolm.
No problem.